Howdy.
Hey, Mark, how's it going?
I'm fine. How are you today?
Good.
I really like what you put together.
That was a quick glimpse of what was going on in my brain.
Yeah, that's very interesting. And so let me are you first tonight?
I am.
Okay, so let's just get going. Um,
Good.
and so what I guess I'd say is it can be, I mean, you can pick a user group, right? A
Hmm.
market segment, a demographic, a slice of humanity or culture, the way you have, the way I kind of unpacked it in the assignment and the way I think ultimately many of us will carry out the work this semester.
Sure.
But um, you could flip the script too, right? You could, for instance, say that you're going to design for missing middle housing a small like maker studio. Like, for instance, there's a reverend down here, Faith Fowler, and she has these generally speaking disenfranchised, homeless, kind of like challenged individuals that that span all ages and cover both genders and
Hmm.
maybe in between, right? And they convert the tires into like welcome mats and house, floor mats and sandals, right? So they make stuff, right?
Yeah,
And
I've
and
heard of
so
them.
the facility could be, right, a facility for them to do that, and you could design a kind of commercial factory maker space
Sure.
alternative, and then on top of it or behind it or next to it or whatever, right? You could design the housing component. So
Right.
it could be like that too. So I'm saying that to you in the hopes that Tim and you will share uh, that flip of the script, right?
Right.
Not a
Yeah.
big flip, but it could be like that too.
Like there was thoughts of, and I was talking to Tim and Brandy about it. Um, if this housing was, say, for divorcing parents or whatever,
Hmm.
that maybe the lower level was yoga
Yeah,
studios,
yeah,
therapy sessions,
yep,
paint,
yep,
paint classes,
yep,
something that could try to stimulate the relationship back together and
yep,
kind of like mini date nights that you could have
yep,
in the same area.
yep. That's a very cool idea. And maybe a community kitchen where people
Right,
can
right, yeah, cook.
like have meals together again.
Exactly.
One of the things that I think makes work so interesting for me and for my team is that food is a really big part of it. I really tried to promote the culture of food in our office, food at our meetings, food at events. But you know, let's just sort of put this out there, right? A lot of families don't sit down and have a meal together any longer, and
Right.
could there be that relationship between what you're thinking about and that the absence of sort of breaking bread together? Yeah, maybe there's that doesn't help, right? If you don't do that.
There, right.
Oh my goodness,
You
somebody
have
must be walking by with a dog tonight.
you have visitors.
Yeah, you're going to hear that a lot as the semester goes by because they're going to be outside more. You may not hear it directly like that, but you'll hear it when they're outside. Anyways,
All right, so let me screen share and let me know if you can see this.
okay.
So, living up in northern Michigan, I think it's proper to pick the site that's close to me. Um, I happen to drive through Boyne City. I grew up in Boyne City, went to high school in Boyne City, so I have a lot of deep roots in Boyne City. I work out of Petoskey though.
Sure. How long
So
of a drive is that, by the way?
it's
40
about
minutes?
30 to 35.
Uh-huh.
Wintertime could be 45. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Depends on how early you leave, because
Sure.
some of the people that need to get there at 8 o'clock, they'd like to take their time. So anyways, this is just a quick glimpse of the location. Lake Charlevoix feeds into 3 communities in this area: Charlevoix, Boyne City, and East Jordan.
Yep.
And so I'm not sure how familiar you are with this area. Okay.
I've been through East Jordan. We've vacationed in and around Charlevoix. Boyne City as a city, though, I don't really know. I know the golf courses there, but I don't. I don't really think I know it. I think I drive through it on the way to other places, maybe.
Yeah, most people do.
Is it 31 that comes through? Or
Yeah.
131?
Yeah, 131 comes close. 131 goes through Boyne Falls, and that might be something that you go through.
Yeah, that's probably it then.
Boyne City is a bit bigger than Boyne Falls, and it has been growing, increasing population for quite some time now, 10 years or so. So
What keeps you there?
well, I grew up here. I went down to school at first Adrian, then I went to Lawrence Tech. Spent 3-4 years after school in Royal Oak, and it's just home up here. It's
Sure.
It's not the hustle bustle of the city.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little bit more laid back, and it's just beautiful.
It is beautiful up there, and I think the quality of life is, relational to the beauty and the charm and the pace.
Mm-hmm.
So how large is the city?
Right now, there's just under 3,800
Wow.
people.
You probably know all of them.
You know quite a bit.
I bet you do.
Seasonal population, they estimated it's just under 5,000, so it grows quite a bit in the summer.
Yeah.
And when it was thriving at its peak, it was about 5,200 people. And it was first found, I think it was a New Yorker, but a family that was trying to get away from the city stumbled their ways on Lake Charlevoix, established this area, called it Boyne City, and it ended up being a big logging area.
Sure.
And that's what you kind of see in the bottom 2 pictures. The bottom left one is all the timber being stacked and then shipped off by boat. And then I've done a bunch of demographics of the area.
That industry does not exist any longer. Is that correct?
No. So what happens is like in about 1920 or so, they chopped up as much wood as they could, and it kind of, all the mills kind of silenced their whistles, as they say.
Mm-hmm.
So what ended up happening is people still came here because of the beauty, and it's just known as a vacation spot. You get a lot of Asians that tend to be in this area in the summertime, a lot of Detroiters, Grand Rapids. I've got a lot of clients from Texas that are establishing a second and third home.
I remember you were telling me that. That's really interesting.
Yeah. Dallas and Houston. I've got 4 clients that are from Texas.
So let me ask a couple of questions. What's the airport near there? Is it Pellston?
Pellston's about 45 minutes north.
So do they use that?
They do. They use Traverse City. Actually.
Sure, I know that one.
And that's about an hour 10 drive.
Yeah, it's not a straight drive. It's not a direct drive, in other words.
No. But that's kind of where people come in from. Pellston,
and Chicago people, do they sail in?
Yeah, you'll see a lot of people come in by boats and in their yachts. And they'll end up in Bay Harbor. Yep,
I know that. I did a house there. I think I told you this, and I did Galley Gourmet. It's a little like market wine shop in the Marina District. I think they still call it that.
Yeah.
So I did that a long time ago, actually. And so what resorts are there? Is it just Boyne Mountain?
Boyne Mountain is closest to Boyne City. That's in Boyne Falls. There's Boyne Highlands, which is in Harbor Springs, Bay Harbor, obviously,
Yep.
and
East of or west of Petoskey.
correct. And then in Gaylord, off of 75, there's quite a few golf resorts there.
Yeah, yeah, those I know about too. And in terms of ski resorts, is it Boyne Mountain then?
Yep, Boyne Mountain, Boyne Highlands, and then also Nubs Knob, which
Up
is
in
in
up in
Harbor.
Harbor Springs again. Yeah.
Correct. Yep. And they actually Boyne Highlands and Nubs Knob they face each other, so it's kind of funny. Some people turn left, some people turn right,
I see. Gotcha.
which is interesting.
Yeah, I think I've skied Nubs Knob, but
Yeah.
that was when I was foolish and much younger. So okay, and then what about like the economy? What's the average age? What are people doing there? What are they earning there? And
So all the information on the left is kind of what I found. You'll see that there's a age limit of 5 to 17, which kind of is the kids in high school, and then there's a sharp drop from them leaving the area to go to college, and then 25 to 44-year-olds spike back up, but the majority is the 45 to 64.
yeah, I'm in the red class. Sure.
So you'll
And
find a lot of
so
people.
it looks like it's a hard place for seniors to live too. Although it's not an ignorable number. It's just that that's interesting that it really drops off.
Well, you'll find that a lot of seniors move to Florida because of the winters.
Of course.
So they become more this doesn't take into account the seasonal population
Yeah, I
change.
understand that.
Working down from that, the median household income is in 2010, based on the 2010 census, was $60,000. And you can see over the last 20 years, it's slowly increasing.
That's actually not bad.
No, but I think a lot of it's people getting established back up here, and not so much the young professionals, and that's kind of the issue.
I mean, if you're a young person, your age, for instance, I mean, you're kind of the poster child for what I'm about to tell you, right? You can't make your living there, so you have to go to another community.
Yeah,
and that's I don't want to say that that's not sustainable, but that's kind of a vexing problem, right? There's just maybe not enough varied industry or professional services industry in your community. So how do you attract people, or how do you make it easier for people to say, okay, I'm going to live here because it's better and maybe inexpensive, or it's got excellent schools, but I'm resigned to the fact that I got to drive 35 minutes, right, to make my living.
Right. And you'll find a lot of people my age live in Traverse City because of the more diversity of jobs there.
Yeah, more employment opportunities.
Correct.
And, let's just face it, it's a pretty nifty city at a number of different levels,
right?
Not picking on your city, but like, the film festival, the Cherry Festival, they have, I mean, it's the food, right? The food scene is really just screaming out of control over there. Mario Batali goes there all the time. The chef, on the TV shows, the one that wears the orange Crocs, right? I mean, everybody knows Traverse. Nobody knows Boyne City except as a place to go through to get to.
Yeah.
Dot.
Now they have established a few, not as big as the Cherry Festival, but Boyne Thunder, which is a new, probably 10 years old or so, and it's a bunch of the very fast boats.
Yeah, boat racing.
And they start in Boyne City, and then they drive through, or they cruise through Lake Charlevoix, and then hit Lake Michigan and go up to Drummond Island.
Wow.
I think they might go down to Elk Rapids too. So they make a big loop.
That's
and
cool.
And it's the weekend after the 4th of July. And it's been sparking a lot of, you'll see a big spike in population then. 4th of July, Boyne City was rated in the top 5 of all of America for their 4th of July parade and their show and their fireworks. but that I think that's more based on how many people end up in Boyne City and how much it grows in population
Yeah.
for the festival. So, it's starting to make its name and coming back.
Uh-huh. Are there any major employers? Is there a hospital or a school or a university or a
Not in
manufacturer?
Boyne. Well, Lexamar and
Yep.
Honeywell are the biggest, the two bigger plants. There's a hospital in Petoskey, so you'll find a lot of, like, my sister lives in Charlevoix and she works at the Petoskey Hospital,
I know the hospital,
the McLaren Hospital now.
right?
And so you'll find a lot of people that are comfortable with driving about 30 to 40 minutes, as long as they can have their children in a good school system
Yeah.
and they have a little bit of space.
Hmm.
Um,
Is there a drug problem there?
Not that I know of.
Hmm. Sometimes the fact that they have to be driven everywhere, limiting the time that they sort of can do constructive things, just sort of creates that issue. I know that many small cities are facing, drug problems as a result of boredom and nothing to do, right? So
Well, I think the biggest thing, at least in our in Boyne City, is the school, the high school. There's so much pride, and a lot of the people are athletics. A lot of the students are, or they're part of the athletic program, and
which teaches discipline and
so
cooperation and teamwork. And
my youngest brother, who was on the varsity basketball team, went to play at East Lansing for the state champion or the semifinal champion game, whatever. And the amount of crowd that traveled with the team was very impressive.
Nice.
And so it's kind of this big thing, Boyne Pride. You'll see that if you walk around, a lot of people wearing those T-shirts, Boyne Pride. So. And
how close are you to Walloon or Walloon Lake?
Yeah, Walloon Lake is about 15 minutes.
Okay.
Let me back up one. So if you see my mouse, this little indentation, that's Walloon.
I see. Near Horton Bay?
Yeah, Horton Bay is right here.
Uh-huh.
And then Petoskey is right
Up
around
there.
here.
Yeah.
Yep.
What's interesting too is like East Jordan, they're the ironworks people. They're the sewer cover people.
Yeah, you'll see those everywhere.
Yeah, they're everywhere.
The manhole covers.
I just think that's just kind of an interesting little story too. And I wondered if Boyne City had anything kind of like that in its history. I mean, I think the timber industry was a big one, but probably there too as well in East Jordan.
Yeah,
but, that's kind of a neat brand for the city of East Jordan.
Yeah. Well, that company, actually, the Ironworks, is going to move out of East Jordan, and they're going to be located in Mancelona, which is 30 minutes away.
I know the golf course is there, so I know Mancelona.
Yeah.
It's a railroad town. It has the tracks running through it.
So now that East Jordan or the Ironworks doesn't rely on boats and freights to move their products, they don't need to be on the waterfront.
And trucks. Interesting. Yeah. So let me. What else do you have? I know you have a few more plates, but I'm hoping to see maybe some aerials. Yeah, there we go.
So this is as you walk into Boyne City, you're greeted with.
It's a totally walkable city, isn't it?
Yeah. So you're greeted with. This is Lake Charlevoix. East Jordan, you see that arm extends all the way down.
Yeah.
It's over here.
Yeah.
But this is the Boyne River that snakes through the city.
Neat.
And this is
is that river? Wait a minute. Your cursor doesn't line up exactly with what you're pointing at. So between the two red sites that you've picked, where is the river?
The river is right down it's hugging site 1. If you can see it right down here.
I do.
And then it kind of snakes back and around. And I don't know what this thing is.
So is the river daylighted?
Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yep.
The site looks like site 1. I see that now. So site 1 actually kind of sits on that river too, doesn't it?
And that's why I'd like to pick site 1 rather than site 2. So we can go through that.
Site 1 is a difficult site geometrically,
Yeah,
right?
here
Because it's a pork chop, right? And
so this is site
tough,
1.
there's tough. Yeah, and you may have some floodplain issues.
Yeah, it's not too bad. So real brief history on site 1. Site 1 is a Consumers Energy location. It's their immediate office, and then they have a bunch of supplies in the back, which is what you see.
Yeah, it looks like a yard back there.
Yeah, it's a utility yard sale. And the reason why I chose this location was that it's unnerving that they get a cool piece of property along the riverfront,
Yeah.
and don't get to utilize the beauty of what the Boyne River is.
Yeah, you don't as a community.
Right. Yeah, it's not nice.
Mhm.
And Boyne is kind of a little bit outside of the city, close to the outer edge of the city limits. Let me back up. So out here, they have started to introduce an industrial area.
I see.
And so my thought process that if this ever went through, I'd try to incentivize Consumers Energy to move.
To migrate, right.
Yeah, to migrate away.
What
So
is the
that-
east-west road at the north boundary of your site? Where does that take us?
Spring Street, it
Yeah.
takes us really to just nowhere.
Back to the river, and then
Yeah. So one block up is State Street, and that takes you to Walloon.
I see.
So
And so, how big is this site?
I don't know the size.
So
of
if
the
you
acreage,
drew a boundary of it, and I mean, obviously you'll probably respect the tree line,
yeah,
and
the
the vegetation,
floodplain.
and then
Yep.
you may only be able to build on the hardscape, right?
Yep.
The groundscape that's there. So I mean, a third of the site is given over to things that you're not going to disturb, and 2/3 of the site are probably buildable. So if you can like construct that from aerials, you can draw things to scale. One of the things you guys will start to learn is, and you'll start thinking about this, is like, well, in Frank Lloyd Wright's Broadacre City, which you may know about, right? It was the sort of urban plan for his Usonian houses. Like, so if you do several Usonian houses in a city, that would be the Broadacre City, and along with other things, but each of those homes had 1 acre. So his density was one house per acre.
I get
But in sort of new urbanist thinking, we try to hit like 18, 20, 22 units per acre. So it's much denser than Broadacre City, much denser than Boyne probably has seen. So maybe 22 units per acre is high, but it's that land is going to be expensive, and you have to recoup it with numbers
right.
in terms of residential units that make the cost, offset the cost of the purchase or the acquisition. So it would be helpful to know that acreage.
Okay. I went out and took some photos yesterday of the
Y'all
site.
have snow up there.
Well, it's actually almost gone.
Yeah, we've had like 44 degree temperatures down here.
It started to snow again today.
Wow. Yeah, it cooled off a little bit.
So the top image is
Is that State Street, or is that the River Street to the left?
yeah, that crosses over.
Uh-huh.
So let me back up.
Oh no, that's the North-South Street on the left.
Yes, that's East Street. So that's if you're standing almost at the bridge
Yeah, I see
that
that
goes
now.
over the river.
Yeah,
So the river is on the right,
yeah,
and then this is the office building
for consumers.
for consumers. Yep.
And the lower left or the middle left?
The middle left is their parking lot as you work
sort of looking
towards the
northwest.
north. Yep.
Uh-huh.
And then the middle right picture is from
Sort of due east, looking due east at the yard.
Yep, at the yard, and I was.
Uh-huh.
They've got a big snowbank, so I stood on top of it.
And it looks like the lower picture is kind of a panorama from that yard picture above, sort of swinging left.
Yep, and looking at the river
Uh-huh.
and the kind of floodplains, but
Yeah, and the houses on the south side of the river as
yeah,
well.
so you can see that on the opposite side of the river, there is some density with the housing, the residential sector.
But single family,
Correct.
probably
Yep.
big ass homes.
No, those ones are actually, and that's the kind of the weird part is like
Because they're on the river. How do they not like?
they're old. So
They were original settlements.
yeah, so that's the problem I have with these. There's a lot of sites that have just gorgeous views, and the houses there are just disturbing some days.
Have you talked to the planner there, or maybe gone online, or maybe you have access to like a vision, a plan for the future?
They do have a master plan that I've
Uh-huh.
been kind of let's see if I can find it. I think I saved it somewhere. So I've been trying to comb through it. Point City, there we go.
There it is.
And it's 76 pages, so I'm getting into what their
Yeah.
goals are, and yada yada yada.
Some history.
Yeah. So I gotta comb through this some more.
Take a look at the multifamily section pretty closely, just in terms of, where they're thinking of doing that. What are they thinking of doing with the river, right? Those kinds of things. So
Right.
what is the future land use plan say? This is pretty recent, so this is good. Can you maybe click on Zoom and get in close?
So this is the site right here.
Yeah, they've kept it as industrial, I think. Or,
Yeah, well, I'm not sure what this residential open space
yeah, I'm
is.
not either. Because it's got the same color, doesn't it?
Yeah, it says this. I think that color is
But industrial looks the same color too.
community service. I think is what. Maybe not. So
Call the planner or email her or him and say, dude, if the consumers were to leave, what would that be zoned?
right.
What is it currently zoned, and what would it be zoned?
It's currently zoned as. Whoa, come on.
That was a quick zoom.
Yeah, community service district.
Yeah, so it's like utilities.
Yeah, which is again this. Which is it's funny because that whole riverfront's the same thing.
Yeah.
So, but I'll get on the horn with them and try to see what their thought process is.
Okay.
So site 2, a brief history on site 2. Boyne City High School.
I thought so.
They're the middle school. They built this. It was an old middle school. They added on to it in like the 2000s, the mid 1990s, to try to help with the size of school that they needed. And then Boyne City High School built a brand new high school, and so the middle school moved from that location to the old high school. And so what this site is currently used for is minimal early learners facility. I noticed yesterday when I was walking around, the high school wrestling team was using a room for their practice. And
So is it like for mentally or physically challenged kids?
I think it's a little bit of both.
I see. Yeah, makes
And
sense.
also for troubled kids. And then also they have administration offices for the Boyne City Public School System.
So like the superintendent might be there, and
Correct. Yep.
school board meetings might be there.
So the issue I have with this piece of property is it's big. They have quite a bit of building space there.
Yeah. Can you
As far
zoom
as-
in on that, by the way, while you're talking about it? Thank you.
And I don't think the building per se is being utilized efficiently. So in a what if scenario, what if we were able to kick Boyne City Public Schools out of this block? That was my interest. Just to the north, you see the Boyne City Library.
I see that. Now, and can you pan up there just so I know which building it is? Is it the one on the southwest corner?
This is the northwest. So this building.
Keep panning up. I don't see the whole block.
So you'll see the parking lot.
Oh yeah, it's to the right of the parking lot.
No, it's to the south, just below that parking lot. So
it's like the residential roofed building.
Correct.
Okay, it's just, yeah. Okay, gotcha.
The one to the right of that parking lot is a big pole barn, basically. And then to the other right, this block here is F.O. Barden and Sons. They're a lumber company. Little brother, small shop lumber company. If you don't want to go to, say, Home Depot.
Yeah.
A lot of the hard-nosed old guys that want to use that, they go there.
Right. They go there to buy the nails that they've always bought and chew the fat, as they say, right, on Saturday morning.
I don't know how affordable it really is. So.
Yeah. Well, I kind of like both sites.
So these are pictures that I took yesterday again of what the building is.
Yeah.
The top image is from the north looking south and along that street.
Yeah, in the parking lot on the left.
Yep.
Gotcha.
And then working from the middle left, it's just kind of working around the building to the north, from the east, and then from the west going to the south side. And then the lower left image is again that parking lot on the side street.
So
I don't know if I haven't taken the stance yet if this was the site, if this would be an adaptive reuse of this building, or I'd hate to say it, but clean slate it.
Well, I guess
because what you see in this lower image, the main block is the old school.
Yeah.
Then they added on this left wing, and then this is the gymnasium on the right, and there's a connector to them. So it's kind of a hodgepodge.
Yeah, it's a sprawled campus, right?
Yeah.
All like single story, maybe 2 stories, some places.
Yeah.
I
would really like to go to site 1.
Yeah, I sense that. I guess, in the school site, the classrooms might be like nice residential units, or they could be divided into 2 residential units per classroom, depending on the size of the room and the windows and all that stuff. It's like school conversions are kind of an interesting sort of strategy to work with. They work really well generally when it's old schools, right? Because you're buying some history and character, and buildings like this don't, they were important buildings. This kind of expression of architecture was important because it didn't have character. It was modern, and that was the character, right? That's what we were buying back then. That was the attitude. That's one thing. I also think that scraping some or all of the site is, it's got its challenges. But depending on what would replace it, and in other words, in terms of architecture and open space, right? What kind of give back your proposal would have, that could be very interesting. It's a big site, and honestly, I'm a little concerned about, like dealing with the whole site. So cleaning the site of anything on it makes the site actually really difficult to work with, because you're going to create everything that's new, and you're not going to be like rubbing up against anything that's old. Do you know what I mean? In other words, I think it's actually harder when you have less challenge, right? When you're writing the whole story, that's actually really, really hard.
I understand.
When you're reacting to something, right? When you're when architects are trying to have a conversation with something, like next to it or above it or whatever, that's when the conversation gets interesting, right? Because the other party is talking to you. So you have to enter into kind of a dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not necessarily in favor of scraping the whole site, not because of the value of the buildings, but because it makes it too hard for you.
I get you.
So maybe there's a way that the school facilities can continue their uses, if you go to this site, as community uses or community program spaces, and you add stuff to the site that is also residential, or you add above these buildings with residential, thinking of a way that addition or that insertion adds sort of value to the overall site strategy. So that's one thing about it. I also like that it's it's in the city in terms of walkable relative to like the other things there. So it's very much part of, that downtown fabric. So it has kind of that going for it.
Mm-hmm.
But I do appreciate in Site 1 how, the river is a virtue. It's an asset that you could build on. And for the constituency that you're thinking about for this property, maybe not being in the thick of the city center is what they need. They want the ability to walk and drive into town for the things that they would need or want, but they're not kind of like wearing the giant, D on their sweater that says divorced, right? They're not sort of like,
it's kind of like an oasis a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. It's a little bit more protected. It's a little bit more of a cloister, and yet at the same time, it's really close to town. So I can see how this site could be a blend of some architecture, some open space, maybe some commercial and retail space, maybe some gardens, and that kind of thing. So that site could be very interesting from that perspective. It also looks like the east-west road, which is intersecting east, the name of which I cannot read. It's a 4-letter word. What is that street? Pear?
There's Park Street. Which street are you looking at?
It's east and west, and it runs right into the Consumers Building.
Oh, that's River Street?
River Street. So why is River so wide? Is it got double-loaded parking on it?
Yeah. So right in the middle, there's a...
Because it's servicing the riverfront and the park there.
Well, yeah, that, and then Boyne City gets pretty congested in the summer season, so having more parking is ideal. So that's why it's wider. It's slightly off the main downtown district.
And you just walk south into the city then.
Yeah, all of this, the whole city of Boyne City is walkable.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Then I guess the other thing that I'd want to say about your program, which I really, really love, is there's kind of, I don't want to say that it's naive, but it's definitely fairly hopeful that the architecture, the programming, right, and everything that you're bringing to this conversation, it's kind of optimistic that by virtue of being close together, or rather than being like divorced and completely remoted from each other, it's kind of optimistic that proximity will produce civility.
Yeah, I know. I was just conversing with my girlfriend through it and just talking it out with her. And that's kind of what she said. You think architecture is really going to help a divorcing parents? I said, well,
yeah, I mean, it's maybe the last person I want to see is you if I'm going through that. Maybe because I want to have, a social life aside from you. But so I think that's something that you have to maybe think harder about and maybe talk to her a little bit more about what would be the limits of that and how close could things really, really be. But I think that the sharing of kind of like responsibilities like meals and upbringing and those kinds of things, that's a really noble thing. And it is kind of very optimistic, you're thinking, but at the same time, it's kind of an intriguing idea. And I don't know that there's any sort of literature or research or papers that, from psychologists and marriage counselors that talk about this. But if you could find something like that, it could help bolster your case.
Yeah. Yeah, I was trying to research quickly last couple of days just about this idea, and I did see that someone did a housing complex that floated on the river that once you got your divorce, you split apart. So it was like intentionally building something for the divorce.
Wow.
Which I thought was rather stupid to try to, but I don't know, maybe it's part of the society that's just what we got to deal with.
Yeah.
So
it's very interesting. So I just want to protect you from sort of becoming the laughing stock at the reviews for having this sort of wonderful but harebrained idea without any sort of backup, without any kind of intel on it. So it would help to know if what you're sort of speculating about is actually something other people have thought about, and this is how that thinking has manifested itself. It would give you a lot more street cred, Drew. That's the one thing. The second thing is that maybe what you'll learn in looking for that stuff are variations on that. And ultimately, I hope to say you'd be open to what that variation might be. It might be, it might be a community for divorced men, it might be a community for divorced women, it might be a community for divorced men who have custody, or women who are divorced have custody, that kind of thing. Or maybe it's some sort of thing where it's parents and in-laws living together. What you're setting out with now, while really intriguing, and I think it will be the basis of a kind of an interesting assignment for you for Monday, it may need to reorient a little bit as we move into the next couple of classes. So just be open to that is what I'd say. Yeah,
I know it's a bold move to start with, but figure it starts a conversation at least.
Absolutely, and that's what I like about it. And I appreciate that you sent me that today. When we were this morning, rather, when I was at work. So thanks for doing that. Yeah. Anything else we got to talk about?
That's kind of where I'm at.
Okay, sounds good. Carry on, and we'll talk on Monday. Have a good weekend.
Awesome. Thanks, you too.
Bye-bye. Hi, Tim. Are you next tonight?
Yes, I am, Mark.
Good. Go ahead.
Good. How are you?
I'm super. How about yourself?
Real good, real good. Spent the whole day listening to a code seminar for the upcoming code changes.
Yeah, there are big changes coming our ways. What did you learn about today? A whole summary of the change?
Yeah, it was the significant changes to the code summary put on by the AIA.
Yeah.
So they went through pretty much all the big revisions. I mean, there's revisions coming down the road for I2 and I1. They've split those categories apart.
Yeah, the industrial stuff. I don't deal with the industrial stuff a lot, but yeah, it's crazy because you're always having to look at the materials that are getting stored and the volume of it, and oh my God.
Yeah, they've changed a lot. They've fixed a lot from 2012. They're already talking about having to fix stuff for the 2018 cycle. So it was good. It was insightful.
And did you have to pay for that seminar?
Yeah, I did. I get reimbursed through my company. So
gotcha.
But so I took your suggestion early on about the veterans housing, and
right.
You're right. I would have insight into that. I've actually worked on a couple projects with veterans, with organizations in Michigan.
Nice.
So I've kind of got a little jump start on that from a programming standpoint, and from a operation standpoint, and from a kind of a I guess an overall, I don't know if you should say, outlook.
Yeah, it's not completely new to you, like the stuff that Drew was talking about.
Right. So, I've had a chance to talk with some of the veterans that were homeless, that, have gotten into these work programs where they've gotten back to work, they've gotten on their feet, started making an income again. So they're able to now start having a residence, a low to median income residence. And that permanent supportive housing for them with associated on-site services helps them basically become a productive member of society again, helps give them pride in themselves again,
Of course.
and helps have them continue living and get them out of that dark hole that they once were in.
Sure. So the program helps for reintegration, acceptance, and self-worth, right?
Very, very much so.
Right.
And as for me personally, that hits me home because I've had a couple fellow Marines commit suicide because they were in those dark spots. I've had issues myself,
I see.
so I can connect one-on-one with that.
Mhm.
And so for me, looking at it, I'm looking at it going, okay, what could have helped these guys? What could have helped me maybe easier? What is helping some of the older vets from, Vietnam and Korea and whatnot? What's helping these guys? So when I've had a chance to work on a couple of the smaller projects I've worked on, it was powerful from that standpoint.
So thank you for sharing all of this. Look, my suggestion to maybe contemplate or consider this, let's just call it a typology, was meant as encouragement, not necessarily a look back or a reflection on something that was maybe too unsettling or too dispiriting. So I meant well, right, by that suggestion. But if it's something you don't want to do, then just say that, and we'll work with you to find something more appropriate. But I'd love to work with you on this topic.
It's actually quite the contrary, Mark. It's for me, it's very inspiring, and I think because it is such a personal issue for me, I think I'm already getting myself psyched up for it.
So am I. So I'm glad. And in the meantime, maybe you do a screen share for a second. I want you to maybe fire up your browser, and I want you to go to Brooks and Scarpa. It's an architecture firm out of LA.
I already looked at them.
Oh, you already know that piece, the building they did?
Yep. Matter of fact, it was one of my bookmarks I was going to share with you.
Then never mind. So we can go right into your presentation. I just wanted to make sure you knew about that.
Yeah, I actually, over the last few nights, have been looking up a lot of precedents and case studies. And the thing I'm finding is, so obviously, just like typical homeless housing, there's a connotation of, okay, well, it's public sector housing, so it's cheap, it's dirty, it can't be high quality. Well, the same connotation, negative connotations exist for veterans housing too. And from Scarpa's, Brooks and Scarpa's website, as well as many others, I'm seeing that that's not truly the case. There's actually
it is not the case. And if you ever watch a lecture by Julie Eisenberg, who's also from Los Angeles, she has talks about she has a talk called Low Expectations, right?
Okay.
And she's very inspiring.
Okay, I will look her up.
So I would encourage you to look closely at her and try to understand how she counters that stigma. And her architecture is pretty swell as well. And I think you could derive some sort of like creative design inspiration from her. But definitely Brooks and Scarpa's piece is something I wanted to make sure you knew about.
Yes, I like that piece a lot too. When I saw it,
Me too.
It was pretty neat.
I'd love to live there. It's that kind of
yes,
right.
Well, yeah. I mean, even looking at just the interiors on it, I was impressed with that. So
yeah,
it was nice work. So I know you're familiar with Grand Blanc, being Warwick Hills is right here.
Sure.
But I've been up here now. We've been up here for about 12 years. My parents lived up here after high school. They moved. So I've been in the area. I know the area really well. Matter of fact, I'm fairly involved with the community. I'm good friends with one of the board trustees, who's now the township supervisor, and I've been talking with him about a possible seat on the planning commission. So I'm trying to get more involved with the city.
Well, do you know Keith up there on the planning commission?
No, not personally. No.
Do you know of him?
Yes, I do.
So he's a friend. He was like a business friend of mine when he was the planner here in Birmingham.
Oh, okay.
And he went up there to you about 10 years ago. I haven't talked to him. And I sent him an email through, I don't know, maybe LinkedIn or something like that a while ago. But if you encounter him, tell him that you're studying with me, and he'll be very, very helpful to you if you need that.
Yeah, no, I may reach out to him. I've already reached out to Scott Bennett, who is now our township supervisor, was on the board, who probably worked with Keith all the time.
Yeah.
about one of the sites that I'm looking at as a preferred site, and
Cool.
I kind of approached him with my concept for this veterans supportive housing, mixed use development, and he's very interested, very excited about it. Matter of fact, I got a call with him tomorrow night.
Cool.
Talk a little further about. So there's a site in our town, and I'll show you here.
Okay.
It's a very hot button site. It's right in the middle of town. It's 2 former box stores. It's a Kmart and a Farmer Jack that have not been in use in years, and they look ugly as heck. And everybody in the township is constantly, trying to say, okay, we should do this with it, do this with it, do this with it. But nothing's getting done with it, mostly because nobody's buying it.
Yeah,
So-
and those properties are kind of big piles of shit, and
Yeah.
nobody wants to touch that with a
Right.
pole.
But the location is perfect. It's literally the center of town. So I'll show you, and I'll run
Okay.
my ideas through. So Grand Blanc Township, most of us up here view it as one and the same. Grand Blanc's very small. The city of, it's only about 4 square miles. Grand Blanc Township, on the other hand, is quite a bit larger. It's about 33 square miles. Both together, the population's right around 45,000 or so.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Mostly Caucasian, about
Mhm.
80% Caucasian, 11% African American, and a couple of percent of some other ethnicities.
Mhm.
For the most part, it's a household community. There's very few rental properties, very few apartments. So in terms of the missing middle, I think it's appropriate,
Mhm.
being that the houses to the north, which are approaching Flint, tend to be of lower quality, lower value.
Mhm.
So that kind of ends up being the default for people that can't find rental properties and can't afford a house. They end up living there, which is starting to get into Flint with all of its issues.
Mhm.
And then looking at the median income between Grand Blanc and Grand Blanc Township, they're about the same, 46,000 roughly median household income. I think Grand Blanc Township's a little higher. And being on the outskirts, they tend to have some nicer subdivision, nicer areas around the Warwick area. So that kind of, I think, inflates that number a bit.
Was the community of Warwick, or Grand Blanc rather, is that community, was that like a GM
Yes.
enclave? Is that why
Yes.
there was
Yes.
wealth?
Yes, that is when GM took over the what used to be the Fisher Body tank plant right here in town.
Mm-hmm.
Just after World War II, GM took it over, and that's when all the families of GM at that time moved into that area around Warwick.
Mm-hmm.
And for all those years until about 2000, just before it closed down, that's why that area, and this area has a lot of money in general, was that was all the executives. That's where they all lived. Even that area was also for a lot of the GM plants in Flint. That's where they lived. That was like the suburbs for them. Suburbs.
I see. And so it's good schools there still?
Yes. Yeah. It's actually we like to think of it as the Oakland County of the North. I
Gotcha.
guess.
Gotcha.
The schools are some of the top ranked in the state. Large graduating classes. 400 or 500 people out of the high schools. So yeah, I mean, altogether, it's a very, very good community. The problem it has is there's no jobs. Everybody here commutes for the most part.
And where do they commute to?
Mostly down towards Detroit.
Wow.
The biggest part.
So
of it.
they drive to Waterford or Lake Orion or.
Oh yeah. Yep. I'd say the average commute's probably 30 to 45 minutes. I was working down there for between college and work. I've been commuting for about 15 years, and I just recently, this last year, moved up this way. So yeah, I mean, it's a major commuting town, unless you're in the healthcare industry, which having 3 major hospitals nearby. We have
Genesee
Genesis Healthcare, and then
Genesis,
which is right just on the outskirts, and then McLaren and Hurley.
McLaren's on the freeways, as I recall, right?
Yep, up near Flint.
Yeah.
Yep. So and it's funny. So being a healthcare in town, and then there's a couple small technology companies also. Grand Blanc's master plan. So I'll get to that. If you look over here on the left, it's this dashed yellow line.
I do see it.
They've master planned that since 2008, and it's just recently been approved. It's called Technology Village. It's going to be a focus on healthcare and technology for residents to work there in the healthcare or technology fields. And so they've have this whole video that they've put together about how they're going to grow this as a technology healthcare area and to promote residents to stay in the area and work versus commuting out of the area,
Mm-hmm.
and to try to keep all the jobs and keep all the residents within our town.
So what are they going to do there? Are they going to create like a campus or?
Yeah, I have a little, about a 2-minute video. I don't know if you'd like to watch it.
Sure.
Let me pull it up here.
Is it going to be like a Google campus?
Kind of, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Let's see. Can you see this?
I can. The Technology Village
Yes.
project.
Okay.
Oh, this is recent. This is, Giffords Webster.
Yeah, and they partnered with Land Design out of Southfield, who I'm not real familiar with.
I'm not either. I'm not hearing any volume, so I'm just reading it.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. Still not.
I'm not sure what I'm doing wrong here.
No, I'm reading it though. It's okay.
Sorry.
It's probably bad music anyways.
It's just straight up music, no words. So their backstory is there's something like 40 to 50,000 vehicles that go down the I-75 corridor per day in this area, and their hopes would be having it right off the freeway. It would promote people to come into the area to work versus having people from our area leave to go work.
So they're making the case. Yeah, so it's a catchment. It's a new urbanist community that has the hook of this technology center.
Correct.
So there's going to be kind of a flip of the typical segregated plan, where master plan of a city where the less sort of desirable industrial maker activities occur on the outskirts of town.
Yep.
So that the quality of life at the city center can be privileged. Here, they're going to blend them.
Yes.
So are you thinking in this scenario that you'd take maybe, would you tear off like an intersection of the master plan?
Yeah.
And evaluate it and maybe apply this program
Yes.
of the veterans to some footprints and open space footprints within that plan?
Yes. So that's kind of down here, my site number 2 that I have. So the Technology Village, it's well within that, which is the dashed yellow. Genesis Healthcare is right here, just above the POT of Potential.
Yeah.
And then their orange.
And that's
dot.
the one I see from the freeway, right?
Yes, correct. Yep. And so where the orange dot is, what they're going to do here is I-75 hits Dort Highway, which is one of the major highways up by us.
That's the road I exit to go to the golf course?
Yes. That, or you could take the ones just south of it, the Holly Road exit. But they're doing a major extension of that, which is the thick red line, which is going to become a medical/retail corridor. And so I'm thinking right at that intersection almost, there's some vacant land between a senior village, the healthcare for the hospital, and then that corridor that might provide a good, possibly potential site right there for this development.
Very interesting. So I like where you've taken the city of Grand Blanc and sort of like looked at where the needle's gonna move and speculated about the way a developer would, right?
Yes.
About where the needle's gonna actually start to spike even a little bit more.
Correct.
Based on transportation, based on looking at the master plan, and based on the sort of data, the intel that you've gotten from this video. So that's a very interesting selection.
So like I said,
and from that, Tim, you can start to look at new urbanist communities. You can look at the TED Talks by Duani and others, and Leon Creer. We'll talk further about that, but that's a very interesting sort of assertion. And I think Keith will be very Keith will be very sort of friendly to talk further about how he would see this playing out. So
Okay.
I'm interested in this site.
I will I'll follow up with him for sure, and maybe even try to set up a face-to-face and just bring this initial data and kind of get his feedback maybe.
Cool.
So that's my site number 2, and the only reason it's a number 2 is because it was vacant land, and to me it seemed easy to just
Yeah,
say,
but can something in the video or something that maybe Keith has or the city has as a master plan in terms of like land use, or maybe there's been RFPs that have been developed where you could actually take footprints, or maybe you simply go through an exercise and say, this is what the corridor is going to look like in 2025.
okay,
Right. And it's going to have this kind of density. And I'm going to look at the buildings that happen to fall within the orange circle. Therefore.
okay. That's a good way to look at it. I could look at doing it that way. Because I was wondering how I was in a vacant land where nothing's really developed, but
yeah,
how I was going to work through that.
Well, we'll figure out a way. But
okay.
I typically, I know I just said the contrary to Drew a moment ago, but this has such a coherent vision for the future that I think that's the stuff you're going to rub up against, not existing buildings.
Okay, which I guess kind of takes me backwards a step when I'm looking at up
Site
here.
one?
Yeah, Site 1, which is downtown Grand Blanc.
So is there a downtown Grand Blanc?
Yes, there is a downtown Grand Blanc. It's very small. Blink, you blink, you kind of miss it, but it's very walkable, very kind of old school new urbanism. It's front porches of houses, shops with awning roofs, very walkable retail stores with old apartments above them, that sort of thing. So, and actually I can give you, here is.
Wow, that's very nice.
This is my Site 1 is what I'm thinking. This is
Saginaw and Holly?
Correct, yes. This is an old Farmer Jack and an old Kmart that have been abandoned. Kind of an ugly site, but in the scheme of things, I mean, this is Grand Blanc right here. It's right across from the high school. So it's essentially the heart of Grand Blanc that I think could become a neat site from a pedestrian plaza atmosphere, greenscape, walking paths, some sort of city center iconic marker, and then create this sort of maybe 2 or 3 sided mixed use retail living / veteran services type of facility. Was kind of what I was thinking with that one. Yeah.
So this is an interesting site too. You guys are making me ambivalent tonight. So maybe, I know you all audited the conversations the other night. So Ellen Dunham Jones talks a lot about these suburban big box sites, and there's lots of stuff on Twitter and research in the Congress of New Urbanism about big box stores and what they become.
Okay.
And that could be very, very fruitful. One of the things that happens in these big boxes is they get repurposed for recreation spaces.
Right.
They get repurposed as the new city hall.
Okay.
They get repurposed as new stores, like new grocery stores,
right,
that are smaller and maybe more boutique-like, and create a smaller footprint so that other businesses can piggyback off of the energy of a good store versus just sort of a conventional Kmart big box store.
Sure.
One is good alone, better together kind of thing. Yes. And so you kind of you create more layers and more sort of density in terms of the number of stores and
right.
types. So that's one way of looking at what's there.
Okay.
Maybe even parking on the roof or building above the big box for residential.
That's what that was one
Kind
of
of
my
an
thoughts.
interesting, like, architectural, structural separation, building code, right? Separation challenge.
Yes.
And then what to do with the parking lot. I think your notion of like holding the street line and building new retail and new residential over the retail
Yes.
could be good, and reduce the parking lot to become more of a muse or a street. That could be very interesting. And you could even speculate about what the Kroger site could do if it took cues from what you're proposing. You know what I
Okay.
mean? And you end up
Yes.
creating kind of a new town center out of all of that. That could be very instructive, right?
Yes,
For these
that's-
small towns that
Yes.
hung their hat on the commerce and employment sort of potential of the big box stores. That, you know, clearly the video talks about how online commerce has really changed the game. So that could be very interesting too.
Okay. Yeah, I mean that's city center. That's a great way to phrase it, because that's exactly what. It's funny. So I've had meetings with the planning commission before on other projects, and kind of offline we've discussed it. And to me, in my mind, Grand Blanc has always struggled to find its image, or to find what it is about. So I think this concept that they threw forward about Technology Village is on the right path. But in terms of development downtown, I don't think they really know what they want.
Yeah, but the other thing about the Technology Village is that it does what. So have you lived downstate? Have you lived in Oakland County?
Yes, I did.
I thought so. So you know Northland,
Yes, very
right?
well.
So Northland in 1957 or 55, let's say, whenever that was, when that happened, right? Everybody said, "Oh, well, let's expand our brand, our reach by moving out to Southfield, like building out in Southfield to make it easier for that market segment, you know, the suburbs,
Yeah.
to reach our products and grow our team out there, and
Right.
we'll make even more money than we are downtown." And you know, lo and behold, 10 years later, the riots happened, and white flight actually went up literally the Northwestern Corridor. And with that, just so you understand, with that, the African American community, the community that the whites in Detroit were actually ironically fleeing from, followed, right?
Right.
And so Northland became a community center really for the African American community. And that pushed white flight even further out to Farmington Hills, Commerce Township.
Right.
And so it's very interesting. So in many ways, the move to be in the suburbs created a decentralized landscape for Northland and for the much larger community. And that was really the beginning of the end of the suburbs as we know it, but also of Hudson's as a viable store. In fact, there is no Hudson's anymore.
Yep.
And I fear that, and this is just based on what you showed me, I haven't done any analysis of, you know, what the city's sort of doing for this technology park, but I fear that creating a technology park center is potentially even decentralizing to the city center.
It could.
So maybe there's kind of, maybe you look at both sites. Maybe you say, okay, what's happening in the master plan in the technology center that could migrate and be grafted, right, into this site with the big box and the vacant space around it.
Yes.
So that, you know, maybe you actually offer up to Keith and the city a vision that's contrary to the technology park.
Okay.
You know, that could be interesting.
Hmm.
You wouldn't get the kind of expansiveness, right, and numbers that here that you would in the technology park. You wouldn't get that many people, you know what I'm saying, doing technology, but like the big boxes could be technology,
Oh yeah,
like hubs
Sure.
with residential across and above and
Right.
other uses blended in with it.
Sure.
And connecting it to the high school,
Right.
so that the 15-year-olds, the 16-year-olds that maybe aren't going to go to college like you and me,
Right.
can be redeemed by getting into technology as a skill by literally walking across the street. So
Yeah,
this could be a really interesting sort of notion.
Okay.
So you kind of have to think through a narrative that would explain what's happening there in Grand Blanc and how you'd like to maybe achieve an end goal that sort of brings all of this sort of alchemy together, right? To use the word that our friend in Copenhagen does, Bjarke Ingels, right? And create something that's like so simple and so compelling that you got to do it. And then that's kind of an interesting sort of opportunity. And maybe some of these vets, because they're not much older than the kids that are in the high school, can actually be the instructors, the mentors.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? You can create this kind of really like rewarding and interesting narrative that gets explained as a result of all of these kinds of things coming together.
I like that. Okay.
Now I got to get there and see your city. I don't know.
It's trying to come back. I mean, after the crash and Buick leaving and GM shutting down, and then with the Buick Open going away altogether,
that didn't help.
No, it didn't. So I applaud Grand Blanc for looking at a master plan and trying to get a plan going, and that's intriguing me a lot.
Right. Can you just zoom out and show me where the golf course is from there? I'm a little disoriented.
Yep. It is, where's Warwick?
There it is.
Yep.
Because it's L-shaped, as I remember, right?
Right. Yep. Let's see. So here is.
Right, there's your site.
Yep. And then Warwick is right back here.
So I see Warwick now. And where is your site relative to all of that?
So Warwick is there. The site.
Now I know where I am. Yeah. Right, yeah, now I know where I am. Because I think we actually parked up in the downtown area, probably at the high school, and took shuttle buses.
Yep. Correct. Yep.
Yeah, I remember now.
So that's the one site up there, and then the other site is over here by Genesis Hospital.
I see that now. Yeah.
So
I kind of also feel like that's a great concept, like just taking something from that and applying it. But the whole sort of dimension, Tim, of reintegration, socialization, teaching, mentoring, and quite honestly, being inspired by the youth. I think the veterans would draw some identity and inspiration from that. So I just feel like it's maybe a more robust and more complicated thing, and that could be very interesting.
Okay. I like
that's my reaction. Sort of sleep on that, and if you want to quarrel with me about that, I'm happy to listen. I appreciate that's my immediate reaction.
I appreciate the comment about looking at trying to create a connection between that and what the city is envisioning as a future master plan on the outskirts. I didn't even think about that approach.
Mm-hmm. I'm just an idea guy. That's what they pay me for.
Okay.
Sounds good. What else do you got? Do you have any pictures of the street of site one? Do you have any
Yes, I do.
Can I get? I mean, I think I know what it looks like, but
can you see this?
Yeah, I sure can.
So over on the left there.
I mean, I could be in the South right now. It's just country.
Yes. So on the right are the vacant sites on the outskirts, and then on the left is the Kmart Farmer Jack site. Pretty flat.
Mm-hmm. So okay, and let's see, is that the last one, or looks like you have a couple more?
Yeah, just some aerials again.
Aerials, all right.
Yeah. And I do know from the zoning ordinance, I have plenty of room to go up. I think we have a 40-foot height limit in our city.
Yeah, so you could, I mean, you could get 3 floors
Oh yeah.
of residential over a big box easily.
Yep.
And I think something like this, they would probably, you know, I mean, I don't know what the building height was going to be in the technology park,
No.
but I imagine it was going to be 3 or 4 floors.
Yeah, and I would imagine I'd have to double check. I think they're probably developing that as a PUD. I would imagine. So
Well,
they'll
and
have
that's
flexibility.
just where I was going to go. So a site like this might go in as a PUD,
Yes.
and the developer and the architect working together would create the argument, the case for why this was a much better,
Right.
sort of land use and benefit to the city.
Yep. I'm with
So
you.
why don't you open up your browser? I want to show you another project a project that I did.
Okay.
And go to Maple Road and Orchard Lake Road in West Bloomfield. So I took an old 1965 shopping center, which had literally originally pink brick, like blush brick. Yeah, and see where it says Plum Market. So just zoom in and get the man on the street. So this was a Z-shaped plaza. So it's on the southeast corner, right? So keep turning left, yeah. So that plaza. So
okay.
go in. You can take the road into the plaza, and then and just sort of you can roll forward. So all of these skins are brand new.
Okay. Oh wow.
All of the canopies, all of the coping, the signage. This is the Plum Market that I did. I created a community space just to the right of this entrance, right there. I reworked the road so it intersected at a 90-degree, but I softened it so that,
I like that.
Right? So you have some outdoor area, and then the Plum Market Cafe is right there.
Yeah.
Right? Created kind of a little tower in that little notch in the corner.
Yes.
And it's a pass through to the parking lot behind. So all of these things kind of played out into kind of a new. So if you go back to like the aerial site view of this, all of these things created a much more vibrant neighborhood. The original master plan, though, was to sort of, if you leave it right there for a second, if you take the bar that the UPS store and Olga's Kitchen was in, and imagine putting another piece that size closer to Maple.
Okay.
And then turning it left, creating an L, right, of retail there.
Okay.
That's what the overall master plan came up with. And
Gotcha.
And they wanted something much denser. They wanted something they wanted retail and residential. So all of this was part of a master plan that the developer in 2007 and 8 just said, and you remember that year, right?
Yeah.
So just said that's just totally impractical.
Okay.
You cannot hold this new standard to us right out of the gate.
Gotcha. Given the current market.
You're lucky you're going to get this.
Right.
So that's why it ended up this way.
Gotcha.
But this was a dumb shopping center that had a vacated vacated Farmer Jack in it. When I got on the job, it had 22% occupancy.
Oh wow.
And a Big Boy and a fish market on the end by Maple next to Prime Steakhouse left because we tore those buildings down and built up taller. And where it has the fork and knife next to Olga's, the one on the left, that was a Kakayan jeweler. Now the Jets Pizza is in there. That was a jewelry store. It left. So they actually went below 22%.
Oh, wow.
Now the whole center is full just by reskinning it and getting strong tenants in it.
Sure. Okay.
So it can happen.
Okay. Great. I'm excited.
Cool. All right. I'll let you rock on.
Okay. Thanks, Mark.
All righty. Have a good week.
You too.
Thanks. Hey, Heather, can you hear me?
Hello?
Hey, Heather.
Hi.
How are you? Can you turn on your camera?
I did turn it on. Hold on.
Okay.
Did it not go on?
No, not yet. Maybe leave and come back in?
I was having trouble getting in, so hold on.
I know you've been in and out a few times.
Yeah, well, someone was using an app that wasn't working on my end, so.
Are you on a phone or at your computer?
My computer.
Okay.
No, just give me a second.
Okay, I'll wait.
Can you see me now?
I can.
All right.
Let me just finish this real quick if I may.
Okay.
New project.
I just have to rearrange things.
City. How's work for you?
Busy.
Good. I was just working myself. Sorry. I don't like to do that, but I'm actually leaving for New York City tomorrow for 2 days, and we had a project manager all-day seminar on Monday. So these 2 days have been really, really compressed.
Makes sense.
So what do you want to talk about tonight?
Okay, so I do have some stuff. I have some information on where my sites will be.
Okay.
And I'm trying to narrow down, or at least try to figure out how to word my user group.
Sure. So you weren't here earlier, but like tonight. But I got to thinking, you know, in the thing that I typed up, and in what I said the other day on Monday about the assignment and all of that, was that, you know, think about a user group, and I think that's what you're kind of like doing. But maybe another way to like look at this is to flip the script. And maybe it's not a user group itself, but maybe kind of like an industry that makes things, that brings people together to do things collaboratively.
Yeah.
And it could be like for all sorts of people. It could be for young people. That could be your user group. Or it could be for like old people like me. Or it could be for, you know, people that are interested in a certain kind of vocation or whatever, and then that industry or that commercial maker industrial space could actually be something you create, and then you sort of configure, sprinkle, or develop housing above it, next to it, right?
Yeah,
that allows people to live and work, kind of a very enhanced live-work scenario, but in the sort of scenario of missing middle housing. So that's another way to look at it.
Yeah, no, for me, it's just, I know the user group. It's just figuring out how to narrow down the description of them. So maybe you can help me with that.
Talk to me.
So I'll screen share and just show you what I have so far with the screen. Okay. You see it?
It's coming up.
All right.
There it is.
There it is. Okay, so the missing middle and Pickney and the location. Oop. I don't know. So there's Pickney.
Yep, I'm seeing it.
It's kind of in the middle of all of these cities. Yeah. So it's really in the outskirts of these cities, which, you know, sometimes creates a problem for us. 'Cause
Sure it
I've been
does.
I've been living here for 24 years. So, little brief history on it is that it was founded by a guy named Colonial Solomon Peterson, and he had a total of 160 acres, 26 which involved Pinckney, and they were officially established in 1836 with a total of 367 people. And I got some data on Pinckney in of itself, and that would be the population inside of the town boundaries, because the town itself is small, but the residents of 48169 and the outskirts of Pinckney, like the outskirts of Detroit, and the outskirts of Pinckney, is a total of 20,813 people. The majority of individuals are just above high school graduation. Not many pursue anything beyond that.
That's
Otherwise,
very interesting.
yeah, otherwise they move.
Hmm.
So like the majority of people that live here have graduated high school and they stay here.
So brain drain is a problem here.
Yes.
And not just that, but attracting people, maybe
Yes.
even those with like your background to
Yeah.
live there is
Yeah.
a challenge too. So that's maybe a project opportunity.
Yeah. Well, because the median resident age is 40 to 50. So like that's all like families with a high medium household income as they commute outwards to all of the other cities available for work. And just new.
Can I interrupt you for a second?
Yeah.
I want to tell you, I really am impressed with your, I don't mean to make you blush here, but your graphic approach to information. I was knocked out by your presentation last week, and I'm knocked out already tonight.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I learned how to make sure that my presentation could speak for itself, because I've gone mute a couple of times during my crits.
How did you learn that?
Trial and error.
Did you get yelled at a lot to get to this point?
Yeah, I got criticized a lot.
You did?
Yeah, because I'm really nervous when I'm speaking in front of people.
That's unfair.
I know.
But because you're actually a good speaker, because you have a lot of like energy in your voice, you know.
Really? Because they always tell me to speak up and everything, and yeah. So
yeah. So maybe maybe if I was in the room with you, because I don't hear very well myself, but I'm hearing you okay because I have headphones in, right? Earbuds in.
Yeah.
So that's something I'm not picking up. But you've learned a hard but valuable lesson.
Yeah, it was yeah. Well, because I've accidentally gone mute a couple of times in the middle of my like final presentation crits.
Well, we won't want that to happen.
Those aren't fun. It's not fun when that happens.
No,
so I make sure that there's enough information on the slides, so then if I stop talking and I can just click through them, people will still understand what's going on.
Brilliant.
And so we're narrowing it down into the village of Pinckney. And there's downtown Pinckney. Really tiny.
So, have I been through downtown Pinckney?
It's off of like we're like a little intersection of Hamburg. It's like that we like converge from like Hamburg, Stockbridge, Howell, and Dexter.
But you're south of Dexter, right?
North of Dexter.
You're north of Dexter?
Yep, Dexter's down this way. Hamburg's over that way. Howell's up that way, and Stockbridge is over here.
Can you go back to the map? I'm still confused.
The large map?
Yeah, I guess.
There's Stockbridge, Hamburg, Whitmore Lake, Dexter, Ann Arbor, Brighton, Howell.
Oh, that's right, because Dexter is off of 94 near Chelsea. Now, okay, never mind. Okay, go forward.
we've got main roads of B19, Dexter Pinckney Road, and M36, as well as an important piece of Pinckney, which is the Lakeland Trail. I don't know if you've heard of that.
I have not.
No. Okay, well, the Lakeland Trail used to be a railroad,
Of course.
and they converted it into a walking trail along with bikes, so it's like a paved trail.
Are there any trailheads within Pinckney itself in the box?
Not in the box itself. There is kind of. There's the schools, but if we go down here, there's the historic train depot, and that is one of the landmarks.
So I think I've seen that.
Yeah, the historic train depot of Pinckney is they recently renovated it. It's boarded up still, but it's less run down than it used to be.
Uh-huh.
And this is just inside the Pinckney Square.
Mm-hmm.
The town parks there, the Pinckney Police, the library. That used to be Village Education Center. That was where my preschool was, and they converted it into a library. So I want.
Is there water? Is there a river coming into Pinckney?
No.
What am I seeing left of the?
Yes, this here. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that is. I forgot what it was.
But it looks like it runs north and east towards that school.
Yeah.
Ah, okay. And then it looks like it picks up again up near the word missing middle.
No, that is just open land.
I see. Okay.
Yeah. So the sites that I've been looking at, there's the old lumber yard. It's vacant. It no longer is in working order, and the site is for sale. So it's one of the sites that it's a bigger site. Depending upon the programming of itself, it could be a good site to go for. And then the empty land by the train depot, which is right next to the Lakeland Trail, would be another site, as well as Site 3 is a small little portion of vacant land down by the town square.
Yep.
And overall, what my demographic, my target audience is the students and their family.
Mm-hmm.
And that is because we have a lovely epidemic of drugs, alcohol, sex, and suicide.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't have any community center available for the youth to access for support or for entertainment or to go to after school, or we don't have the programs that the typical urban environment has for their youth. So I want to be able to add that sort of programming into the Missing Middle project.
That's very noble. This is really a distressing thing, isn't it, for you?
Yeah, it hits kind of home for me because there's been a couple of people that I graduated with that have died from drug overdose and have died from car accidents, from alcohol use.
Right.
So it's a real problem.
I know, and I'm hearing about it there, and
yeah,
South Lyon is another
there's
community.
a huge heroin epidemic. Like back in 2014, there was like a total of like 28 in Livingston County overdoses.
Oh,
so it's a huge problem, and it's because these they start young. Actually, I found the community youth center. What my church actually is trying to create a community center of some kind, and I found their presentation, and that they had done research on this problem, and that the initial drug use takes place at 13.
Oh my goodness.
And the reason why is because we have no form of entertainment for them.
There's nothing to do.
This
is what I was just talking to Drew about. You know, Drew's up in Moines City, and he's looking at his city as a place to do. And I said, do you all have a drug problem up there? And he goes, no, there's really not that I'm aware of. Everybody's really active in sports, and
Yeah.
sports kind of replaces the boredom factor with discipline and scheduled events, and town pride gives everyone the big group hug.
Yeah. So like, and also it's like, so like grades 5 through 8, you know, they don't have anywhere to go. They don't have a car. They can't, the only thing that they're able to use is the trail with their bikes, or to have their parents drive them somewhere. And we live 15 minutes from any sort of form of entertainment
Wow.
by distance, which is, you know, crazy. And so like they have done, you know, the initial research that they start being out of school, they have problems with education, and so like trying to figure out how to spearhead this situation would be beneficial for my community. And also the fact that a lot of the students, some of them have to leave town because their families lose their jobs, because the families have nowhere to station themselves, or they get foreclosed. So we have no low income type housing available. All of our housing is above 100,000 plus
That's a lot
in
of
market, and it's tough because my mom actually works for the schools. She's one of the lunch ladies, and
Yes.
she says she sees so many like children on the free lunch program. So it's like, despite the fact that we live in a high income type place, there's a lot of people that can't afford it.
And
But
that
they're
creates a
stuck here.
sense of hopelessness, which is
Yes.
replaced by a very affordable drugs,
Yeah.
which then have the dependency factor, and then things spiral out of control very quickly.
And crimes increase the more there's drugs, and
Because they need to get more.
yeah, it's a big, huge factor. And they said that, you know, the intervention is designed to delay into middle school. You know, they're trying to figure out the best way to spearhead it. And they do have an initiative, which is the Pinckney Community Youth Development Initiative. And I recently reached out to them to see what they would need technically to do. And then there's also It Stops with Students, which is a high school student program. So like they're trying really hard, but they don't have enough support. They don't have the type of resources that other like cities have, like funding or a place to go, or, you know, a place to call home.
Well, this is very distressing. And
I'm trying to not be so negative.
No. So it's very distressing, and it's very upsetting, and I can see why it would be very easy for you personally to feel hopeless, right? That you know,
Yeah.
but you live there, and you've lived there all your life, and you know you're a vested citizen, and you're a caring citizen, and your family has been there dealing with the children whose lives are becoming miserable because of this problem.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate
So like I don't know
how the
how
care that you're bringing to this is maybe something that you can look at through architecture. I don't know that it will work, of course, but you know, that might spark something else beyond the process that we're going to go through the next few weeks. And if that could happen, that would be lovely.
Yeah, so I picked these 3 sites because they're close to the Lakeland Trail, where the youth are able to access it, and it's also available on our our Pinckney school bus routes, and there's also like commuter carpools located around here that go to Ann Arbor, Detroit, and Livingston County. So it's within an area that would provide the most quote-unquote walkable environment for individuals, say if they don't have a car, or they lose their house, or their child is having issues with drugs, or the children need somewhere to go because their families are still working.
So let me ask this question. The two institutions or entities, foundations that you've discovered, are you, so how are you thinking of integrating them? Are you thinking of like introducing them into one of your sites?
I'm thinking about, I reached out to the Youth Development Initiative. I haven't gotten a response back, but that's because I reached out today because I just found them. Because I've been trying really hard to find like data sets for Pinckney, but everything seems to be buried in Google. But I contacted them to see what sort of programming elements that they would need for their initiative. So like figuring out, like, do they need, a recreational space, or do they need conference room type things? Do they need, like, what sort of elements they need in order to continue their initiative and bring it to further development? Because they are figuring out, what is that? Their goal is to create a community youth center, but they have not been able to do that yet. And they have locations to be considered, which is the Lumberyard, which is right there.
I see that.
And they've got a whole list here of properties, but there's also the one empty land by the train depot, and it can even be interconnected. So site 1 and site 2 could be together.
Heather, are you familiar with Detroit at all?
I've done quite a lot of Detroit community centers.
So I'm not surprised. You strike me as the sensitive soul that would like roll up her sleeves to do those. Heather, do you know the neighborhood of Brightmoor?
Brickmore?
Brightmoor.
Brightmoor?
Yeah, Brightmoor has a thing called the Artists Village, or the Artist Village. And so in many ways, the neighborhood of Brightmoor, which is also unfortunately called Blightmoor, has a drug problem. It's an African-American community. It's where their old Redford Theater is located, so there's many people that go there every weekend to see vintage films in a vintage theater space.
Mm-hmm.
But it has this thing, this agency called the Artist Village, and I'd like you to maybe look at it as a way of being inspired by the model they're trying to create, which is basically give kids a paintbrush, give them something to do to make, and get them off the street, get them into a maker program, get them into a creative program, and distract them from these other things so that they can make things that they can be proud of, that they can sell, that they can grow together, that unifies them, and they end up. It's an amazing program, and it's really working there. And here's the thing: right? Not only does it have the theater, which draws people from all over the suburbs to come to, John George, who's in one of these pictures, I'm sure, owns a company called Motor City Blight Busters, and his wife runs the coffee shop. And on top of all of that, they have an annual like art fair that has kids from Cranbrook coming in doing performances and shops. I mean, it's a kooky, weird kind of Birkenstocky kind of art fair, but it's really, really incredible. And you're seeing pictures of that in the second row there. And then on top of all of that, Peter Cummings of the Platform has bought 5 buildings in that neighborhood, and he's going to restore them because he believes in what's happening there. So, like, little things are happening, and they're all happening kind of independently of each other, but they're all starting to catch.
Huh. Okay.
So this could be a good case study for you.
Yeah, that'll be a good case study.
And I know you have more plates, so I want to help you zero in on the site.
Okay. Well, I don't have too many. It's just
Okay, those were the last ones. So
yeah.
I'm kind of intrigued with the railroad sites,
Yeah.
the spur sites, and I kind of like the lumberyard site because it's got stuff on it, and it's for sale, and it puts a lot of eyes on the trail, and it's got these buildings on it that you can react to and build within or next to create kind of a campus. So I'm intrigued with that site, maybe of all 3 of them.
Okay.
What was your instinct on these sites?
Well, I've been thinking about this whole problem for quite some time, and it was recently came to me about the old lumber yard. My mom had told me about the old lumber yard being for sale, and that it might be a good site for it, because my main focus was figuring out a way to use the empty land by the train depot, because it's a fairly large plot of land despite how tiny it looks. And it's like a fresh do-over, and there's like a St. Mary's Church next to it. It's nearby.
Can you maybe close this Prez and open up Google Earth and zoom in on this so I can see it?
I don't have Google Earth, but I can do Google Maps.
Or Google Maps or whatever.
Get my mouse. So this is the whole. I could probably even use the whole.
Oh, so it's actually got like buildings on the street, houses on the street too, on Hamburg.
Yeah. This here is actually apartments.
Yeah.
And then we've got the church, St. Mary's Church down here, that also provides education. And there's the train depot. And the Lakeland Trail. So maybe I'm able to utilize all of it behind.
Are the houses occupied on Hamburg?
These ones, yes. These ones are occupied.
They don't have backyards though, do they? Really?
They have tiny backyards.
Yeah. Would they have been maybe the workers of the lumberyard that lived there?
Maybe back in the day.
It
could be possible. Because it's been out of business for before we came.
Okay. Now, can you click on your a new tab and type in the Harrison Royal Oak? Luxury residences. My friend designed this website.
Cool.
Now, I'm not saying do luxury. I'm definitely not saying that. But what I want you to appreciate looking at the gallery is that this is an old lumber yard. So roof opportunities, courtyards between buildings.
Yeah. Well,
Right?
it depends on what the buildings look like. I'd have to go out there and
Yeah.
inspect them.
Yeah, you don't,
Because
maybe
if
you
they
don't.
haven't been occupied for 20 plus years.
Yeah,
then-
so I mean, you're gonna like look at them through Google Street View. You're gonna draw plans of them based on aerials.
Mhm.
You'll maybe count masonry units to get a sense of how tall it is. And you and I will work together to maybe just say, there's probably this many columns and here's where they're gonna be, and you'll work with that.
Okay.
Because I don't want you walking into these buildings and
Yeah.
uncovering, you know, a meth lab and or whatever, right?
Yeah. Well,
don't-
they're vacant buildings, so we
But they're
it
not
could
safe.
pose- and they're not safe. No. Yeah.
Now maybe go to Royal Oak maps, and we're gonna go to Morse Street near Harrison. I'm gonna show you what this all looks like, because this is done.
No.
Yep, there it is. You see, if you go to the satellite view,
It's loading.
have you thought of leaving Pinckney?
I haven't been able to leave Pinckney. I live with my parents right now,
Uh-huh.
and I commuted to Lawrence Tech for undergrad.
Yeah, so I mean, you can't now because you're still in school and
Yeah.
it costs you money to do that. And
Mm-hmm.
but your ambition maybe is to move closer to Ann Arbor.
Probably closer to work. I
Yeah.
don't know exactly where I'll be working,
I understand.
like you said.
Yeah, I understand.
Because my internship is a total of 5 years, and then it's whether or not they want to keep me or keep me.
I'm sure they will. So the White Roof Building and the
That
big
one?
building, yeah, are part of that development. And I don't know if Street View is current, but these are all renovated, and maybe Street View will, but you can tell me. Yep.
There is
Just drop yourself down there where it says the Harrison.
this one.
No, lower. Yeah, over there at that intersection. So they've upgraded the parking lot across the street. Oh yeah, you're seeing it now. That's the car park on the right.
Okay.
Now rotate left. So that's what it looks like now.
Oh.
Yeah, they're gorgeous. Tracy and I went through them and we're like,
Those are like apartments?
they're apartments. They're all for rent. There's townhouses. There's 2-story units. There's 1-story units. And those are the front doors, but they have like these little tiny, like,
I would have never guessed they were apartments.
I know. Now rotate left a little bit more. No, the other way. Now go down towards the telephone pole and look to the right. And see, they continue. So that black building is the White Roof Building.
Ah.
And those are the townhomes. And then there's a courtyard between the black building and the white building there.
Oh, there is.
Yeah.
I can't.
So each one of those is a residence,
Oh, that is cool.
one above the other. So there's a ground floor unit, right? And then there's an interior, right? Then there's an interior corridor that leads you to the second floor unit.
Oh.
So that's why, you're going to, and then if you look to the left a little bit more, you see what they're doing. No, the other way. You see what they did to the other skin. They cut it open with big arched windows and added canopies there. So
that's cool.
what you're seeing is what a developer and an architect have done with a big old lumber yard, just like you've done. So I would have this as a case study.
Okay, the Harrison Township?
Royal Oak.
Royal Oak, okay. Okay. That's
And
really
go-
helpful.
Go
That's
up
really
to
cool.
Harrison Street, turn around to the right. Yep.
This way?
Yep. And go all the way to the truck at the end. And then follow that truck out the turn left.
He's
So-
not there. I guess he
So right where the tree and the car is in the lawn, they're going to do another building there.
over here.
And if you just go down the street a little bit more, yep. The owner of the development, turn left now. The owner of the development, keep turning, lives there.
Here?
Yeah, that's his car.
Ah.
And those units with the white tiebacks at the top, those are 2-story units.
Oh. These are 2-story?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's a very interesting complex.
Yeah.
But this is an old lumber yard. It had a railroad spur right off of it, and now it's all scrubbed up. And people are dying. It's all full.
Wow.
The rent is outrageous. It's like $2,500 a month.
Oh gosh, no. I
Yeah.
wouldn't be able to do that for Pickney. We're
No,
in the
nor I, nor Tracy and I. But it just goes to show that, like, what you can do with these old buildings, and approach them kind of in a simple way, which is what I really love about this.
Huh, okay.
Yeah, that's one of the 2-story units. That's the roof.
Dang.
That's the lobby,
That's a lot.
and that's that other one that you just that's the entrance, and then the roofscape is above that.
This is pretty neat, actually.
Yeah, it's very clever. It actually deserves like a field trip. So if you make your way out here to see that, you let me know when you're going to do that, and I'll rendezvous with you,
Okay.
and we'll go through it.
I'd have to do it on a weekend. but
Yeah. I mean, that's agreeable. Oops.
Okay.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. So I like the railroad site from the perspective of how the Harrison could influence you, but also, just how it's on that spur, and it just kind of like revisits the narrative of what life in a small town is like. And yet at the same time, it's up against the city. It's up against residences that live there, and some of that like drive surface that's between those buildings could become softer and greener, maybe more with gardens. So the idea of maybe teaching kids new things to do, or to work on, or to grow, or to make, could be one of the simple solutions of distracting them, right, from drugs.
and reducing the peer pressure.
Well, that's just it. That's the problem.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a funny thing, isn't it? Evidently drugs are big business, right? And drugs now I think are pretty inexpensive, pretty cheap. But like when you think of like entrepreneurism, and you think of like business, you think of like having like if you're going to make a car, you want to sell a car to a family for the rest of that family's time, right? You want to have a customer for life. If you own a grocery store, you want Heather and her family as customers from now on. But the community that you're talking about, the drug community, they don't care if you're coming back for more.
Yeah.
It's a quick hit. It's a quick sale, because they know there's someone else that's going to buy it tomorrow. That's just a poor business model.
It definitely is.
But it works, and that's why it's so distressing.
So the Lakeland this little area is a trailhead. So
Yes.
we're thinking about incorporating that.
Well, I think you
Maybe.
could. I think you
I
could
can-
actually do the whole site.
Including the houses, or just the
I think you could maybe in a master plan kind of brushstroke say that when they become available, the institution buys them and starts operating out of them.
Yeah.
and or maybe some of the caretakers live there. That kind of thing. You don't have to like detail them or draw them,
Okay.
except like in a site plan. But I think they could be an aspect or a component of the property.
Okay.
Can you give me the street view of the trailhead?
Yes. Okay. Hopefully. Whoa.
I have a feeling I'm thinking of
He's
South
very
Lyon.
difficult to place. Hold on. I need to figure
Does
out
South
where
Lyon have like a little white church on one of their intersection corners, or is it Pinckney?
the what?
Like a little white church at the intersection of like
Oh my gosh.
well, you went back out to
Space.
Mars.
Space. Okay. Hold on.
There we go.
Let me. Yes, something.
Mm-hmm. Heather, it looks so benign and pleasant there. Looks like a George, or you know, like a painting by oh Jesus, the guy that's always in the dentist office.
Yeah, and then the trail's right there.
Rockwell. Yeah, there's the trailhead. I have seen this.
And it's just a big, huge, open, vacant land that could be used for something.
It's a big piece of land.
Yes. And
Can
then
you go
there's-
down the street to you? Yeah, there's the apartments. They're not much.
No.
Can you go down to Hamburg Road or whatever that is?
If I can.
Your lumberyard street.
Yeah. Let me see if I can.
Hit the brakes in time.
I don't know why it's misbehaving.
Go out of street by hitting the arrow on the upper left, and then you can drop it in again. Yep.
What?
There you go.
And then I have to see if it'll.
Yeah, maybe drop it right where that driveway is to get into the complex. And there we go.
Yes. Up to here. Do
Is there a wall around it?
Yeah, it looks like a fence. Probably to keep out people.
To keep it safe.
Yeah. Yeah, there's there. So that's what they look like.
They're just kind of metal buildings then.
Yeah. They're old.
Yeah, so maybe those aren't going to be spaces that you can modify to live in. Maybe those are maybe more like social spaces and community and maker spaces like we were talking about.
Trying to get around the corner.
And the way you could approach those metal buildings is by looking at the work of Lake and Flato. Do you know their work?
Lake and Flato?
Yeah, open up another browser tab. They're out of Texas.
How do you spell it?
Lake and Flato. There they are. Go to the porch house and go to images. Actually, that's not the one I want you to see, but that's all very nice. Go back to Lake and Flato and just click on, yeah, and maybe go to images. Oh yeah, Miller Ranch. That's the Miller Ranch.
Miller Ranch? Hold on.
Yeah, sorry. Gosh darn it. I thought it was Miller Ranch. Okay, go back to Lake and Plato. Their work is really, really good. So it's worth looking at. Just type in Lake Plato and go to images. And it is... Oh, for crying out loud. It's their most important property.
That looks.
It's 3 buildings.
Looks like this one.
No.
No.
Keep going down. Okay, stop. Under the LF, go 1, 2, 3. The 4th picture. Yep.
This one?
Yep.
Oh.
Yeah. So there are more pictures of that house, so go to them. Maybe click on HDR. I don't know why they call it HDR. I have their monograph here, but that's it. Look at the 3rd picture, the 2nd picture. See, it's 3 of those things.
Ah. Yeah.
So the image. See what they did with the one where your cursor is? They just kept the roof on it, so it was like a pavilion. Then another one was wrapped all in corrugated steel, and they added the middle one, and they added like awnings. Then the other one that's close to us is kind of has a stone armature with glass, and it's just. And then in the upper picture, it's kind of both open and closed. Take a look at that house a little bit more carefully and use them as a case study for those existing buildings. And as you dig deeper into the work of Lake Plato, I think you'll really appreciate the sensitivity to the sort of agrarian storage vernacular.
Okay.
And the informality of it all, right? Which is kind of what I love about the Pinckney site.
Yeah.
Okay. What else?
That's all I have.
Now this, so let's go back to you for a second.
Okay.
You personally, you can close that.
Okay. Hold on. Oh, don't want to press the X button. Turn up screen share. Okay.
There we go. So, are you sure you want to do this?
Yeah.
Okay, I appreciate that. But I do want to like, you know, I want to encourage you to do this because I think it's really special and it's really important. But I think it's actually going to be kind of emotionally exhausting for you to like dig into this. So you have to be up for it. You have to be strong. You have to be optimistic. On and on and on. And but I think, you know, given your mom's sort of perspective on things, given your life there in the community relative to what you've seen and what you hope could really be the way that your city evolves in the future, you know, I think this could be a really, really special project, but it's not going to be an easy one.
No.
It may not work. You may be criticized in reviews at the end of it all for saying, oh, well, you did a really nice thing on the railroad. I mean, sorry, on the spur, on the trail, and with these other old buildings, but really how does this really solve the problem? It's not solvable by architecture. You're going to run into that roadblock. And I think if you look at Brightmoor, if you look at the artist named Chaz, and you start understanding how they have slowly built a community of young artisans and individuals with a sense of like their own potential that has sort of tried slowly offset, right, the problems that they have with drugs and crime there in Brightmoor, and that may be a model, that may be an admirable model to look at for your community.
Yeah, I'll definitely look into it.
Cool. And if you go to Brightmoor, go with some friends. Don't go alone.
Yeah.
And if you do the Brightmoor thing, you're kind of close to Royal Oak, so think about that as a double sort of visit field trip, okay?
Okay.
That's all I got. Do you have anything else?
No, that's all I have so far.
Cool. Good job. And again, I really appreciate the graphics that you pulled together. It's like, you know, it's right where I want you guys to be: succinct, concise, and informative.
Okay.
Cool. Thanks, Heather.
Yep.
Adam, can I be back in about 3 minutes?
Yep, not a problem.
Thank you. How are you tonight, Adam?
Doing pretty well.
Good, I'm glad. What do you want to talk about?
So I guess we can start with the site. Thought it'd be So looking at this right here, this is a view of Lansing. You can see, is it panning on your screen?
Yep.
Okay. So here's 496, and right in the middle is the downtown area,
Yep.
state capitol. Out to the west here is the site of some of Lansing, some now closed General Motors car plants.
Oh.
So currently these are just huge chunks of land in the middle of the city that are just sitting completely vacant. Then slightly to the west of here, there's this large park called Michigan Park. So possibly something between either one of these could be a potential use to redevelop a site that includes some new missing middle housing. I probably
Can you zoom out, Adam, and just let me get reoriented? So, like, where is Grand from relative to all of this site? It's like 3 miles to the east, isn't it?
Grand River Avenue.
No, Grand or Saginaw, whatever road that is. The north-south
Saginaw cuts right through the middle.
as an east-west street. But where is downtown Saginaw from here? It's to the right, isn't it? Like 3 miles or 2 miles away?
Yeah.
Okay.
So here's the state capitol.
Yeah. Gotcha. It's interesting to me that the urban form of an L, right, kind of defines the south and west edge of Lansing, right, with industrial factory kinds of uses. I guess
Yeah.
I never realized that there were factories kind of 3 miles west of downtown. I always thought it was just south of downtown.
Right. Yep. At the
Which is where the
Oldsmobile
big
plant.
stacks are, right? Where the
Yep.
Three Sisters or whatever they're called.
Right. Yeah.
Mhm.
This site here, they've cut back a lot, but there's still stuff in operation there.
And then
Mostly-
Brandon, your colleague, Brandon,
Uh-huh.
his site, if you zoom in on the river east of the factory, was in Rio Town. Just east of the factory, that under the 475. Yeah, that block, that vertical north-south block, what is that?
Oh, right here.
Washington?
Yep, Washington Avenue.
Yeah, his sites were on that area, in that area.
Oh, okay.
From like Hazel all the way down to Woodlawn. So he looked at Rio Town,
hmm
which was kind of interesting. I learned a lot about that. And but you're kind of looking outside. So that's kind of a mostly, is that your sites are kind of like suburbs of Lansing, maybe?
It's on the edge of. You start to get more into suburbs of Lansing as you move west of the site. So it's right along the edge.
Mm-hmm.
So right now it's a vacant land separating two
Can you
mostly residential areas.
Can you zoom in on exactly where you're thinking in this neighborhood?
I'm not exactly sure which side of the freeway.
Uh-huh.
Right now there's a school down here. I can't remember what was the name of this. Sexton High School.
Sexton, okay.
There's a
And
large,
what's the golf course to the west then? Because I don't think I even recognize that.
This is
Little municipal course?
no, it's it used to be a golf course, but it's been closed down since.
Mm-hmm.
I think it would probably.
What's drawing? Why is the needle moving over here? to this part of the city for you? What are you drawn to?
So I guess maybe it'd be interesting to start to have a site that can start to engage the more of the center, get more rebuilt towards the center of the city, and have more access for people to that. A lot of the state jobs and stuff for people will be in the downtown area. So it'd be, I guess, an easier commute to that.
Mm-hmm. So based on that, I might suggest that you look east of the plants.
Okay.
I don't know what kind of distance. What is that distance from, say, the river to? Oh God, I can't read the name. Can you zoom in just a bit? What's the eastern edge of the plant where your cursor is right now? What street is that? Washtenaw?
Verlinden Avenue.
Vermillion or whatever. What's the distance from there to the river, running due east? A mile?
It's not more than a mile. I know that.
So it's not quite. It's probably. I mean, it's not walkable.
Okay.
But it's not a. I mean, I'm sure buses run there, and I'm sure. I mean, the closer you get to town, the more walkable it is to work, right?
Yeah.
So are you amenable maybe to being further east of the plant and closer to downtown?
Yeah, that could work.
Mm-hmm. Was there something about the factory that, as a setting or a context, or as something that you would respond to in your work that you were drawn to?
There's so as far as, I guess, with this assignment one.
Yep.
I've been starting to, in one of my other classes I read about, it's a management information systems course. I started reading about the idea of mass customization in the current business landscape. I started looking into, let me change what I'm sharing. Started looking into thinking about the Demaxian House.
Yeah, you can see that actually at the Henry Ford Museum.
Yeah,
it's pretty amazing.
Right, but it's something that never really took off.
Right,
but it was in today's money. I think I read that it would have cost $40,000.
It's very simple, right?
Right, but it's. I mean, it has like all your basic things there with it.
Yeah. It's all there. It's like a cross between a yurt and an Airstream trailer.
Right. Yep.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, and it has some of these sustainable building ideas as far as like air circulation through this central core,
mm-hmm.
And then through the floors, and so for my youth group, I was thinking going with millennials. And currently, the average salary for a millennial is less than $35,000, and 2 in 5 go delinquent within 5 years on their student loans.
Oh God!
And so 32%, the most, the majority of young adults still live with their parents.
I know.
So, so I was thinking about this idea of. Mass production, not only mass production producing the same type of a house as the Demaxian house kind of would have been, but maybe find a way through new technology to have a lot of variety, easy customization to this sort of style. And so that's kind of why I started looking at this the old assembly site. So maybe there'd be a way.
Now I gotcha.
So now maybe there'd be a way to reuse some of this infrastructure as to produce the houses, and then another part somewhere else in this, either in the city or within this site also, can start to build a new neighborhood.
Right. So I just lost your camera, by the way.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, something. It just went out about 30 seconds ago.
Oh,
But I'm intrigued now with that.
okay.
There we go.
Yeah,
There we go.
you got it.
Yep. Now I see you.
Okay.
So now I'm understanding the hook,
Yeah.
right? The point.
Mhm. But I mean, it needs a lot more to.
I think,
get
yeah, you
fleshed
need to flesh this out because, so like, I guess the questions might go like this. It might be like, how much of that plant do you really need, right? And is it your plan to like just conceptually say that a factory that makes these things
Uh-huh.
that are modifiable or adjustable and customizable, is it going to take up this much of the full site? And are you going to master plan deliveries and are you going to like design the things that the so-called millennials are going to be buying to live in? Or are you going to simply build worker housing next to the factory that the millennials will be working in, sort of like living next to the River Rouge, right? In the Henry, like,
Yeah.
like Inkster, right? Like
Mhm.
Inkster, Michigan is to the Henry Ford plant, which is where he built a community for his workers to live in, or are you simply going to say the story is this? We're going to have workers who are probably millennials
Mhm.
who work in this factory, which will probably make these houses. And I'm going to design the house and show the variations of the house and configure some near the factory that millennials can look at, buy, and then take home to wherever. I think you need, I'm not saying that those are the only like spin-offs or stories, but I think you have to have a clearer kind of narrative,
Right. Yeah.
right, that this all plays out in. But I'm not saying that it's crappy or not workable. I'm just saying that actually I'm really intrigued with it. And all it really needs, Adam, is some tightening up.
Yeah.
What was your thinking, having heard me say all of that?
I don't know that it's necessarily like just for the people living there, but certainly it's something available for people who would end up working at the factory. It would, and it could be, but it could also be anybody else. It's not like strictly sold to just the employees themselves.
Yeah, so you're going to want to understand a little bit more about Inkster, which Henry Ford had built for the Black community, which is why they called it, right, Inkster, right? Unfortunately, but like that, or Pullman, right? I think it's called the Pullman neighborhood in Chicago. I think that had a similar worker thing. I think quite honestly, Frank Lloyd Wright's Ocotillo, when he moved, after his wife was killed, right? You probably know the story, right? The Wright was away, his wife and the kids, his new wife and the kids were at Taliesin East in Spring Green, Wisconsin, and one of the workers kind of went nuts and locked all the doors and burned the house down. And as the kids and the family tried to escape, he beheaded them. It was carnage, right? And so he was so freaked out by what had happened, and Spring Green crumbled to the ground, and it eventually got rebuilt. But he ended up moving out to Arizona, like in 1939, right? 1939, and he developed something called Ocotillo, which is kind of like an Arizona Indian kind of phrase. And he created a school that was going to build, right, Taliesin, and the school would be like designing homes, right, for clients, because and you as a student, me as a student would like go there. We'd pay tuition to learn from Frank Lloyd Wright, but we'd also be working, and it was kind of it's kind of thing like what do they call that? A cult. It was a cult. Let's just say it. It was a cult. But like the worker cottage was the Ocotillo tent. The Ocotillo site was like a series of tents that the kids, like you and I, would like design and then build them, and we'd live out in the desert, right? So that might be an interesting model. I think also, you know, I think in Toledo, is it Winnebago or Airstream that has their factory down there? Might be interesting to like pop down there for a field trip and tour that and take a look at that, or dig more into like super efficient housing strategies.
Mm-hmm. Where do you say it was?
I think it's outside of Toledo. Aaron Jones took his students to either Airstream or Winnebago, or can you find it?
Yeah, let me.
I'm going to type in mobile homes Toledo, Ohio. No, it's just giving me mobile home sites.
Yeah.
That's not what I want. I wonder where. I don't think it's Winnebago. Let me. Where is it?
It's there's an Airstream factory.
It
in
is
Jackson Center, Ohio.
Jackson Center, Ohio.
Jackson.
Michigan or Jackson?
Jackson Center, Ohio.
Yeah, that's it. So I don't know where
Okay.
that city is. Take a factory tour, Airstream. So where is that?
Let me pull up that map.
He took his students there.
Okay. I think.
Oh, it's actually
North
south
of Dayton.
Yeah, it's about 3 hours, 2.5 hours. It's south of Wapakoneta. So I know where it is now. I have seen the sign
Yeah.
for it. So it's not an easy field trip.
No.
But if we went to Cincinnati this semester, we'd stop there on the way
Okay.
for sure. You know, I'd like you to see it, or at least thinking about it. But like now I'm looking at like Airstream trailers under, like photographs of them under construction, for instance, and that's kind of cool too. So maybe drill into this culture a little bit more, thinking of skin, thinking of windows, thinking of all of those things. It might be very interesting to build on that. But I do think that you have to be clearer, Adam, about how this plays out. It doesn't have to be this elaborate, like, novel. It just has to be kind of a logical, plausible, right, structure, and then the product or outcome of this narrative is what you're going to do this year.
Yeah.
If you lived in Lansing all your life?
I grew up north of Lansing, in a small town out there. My dad used to work not at the abandoned factories there, but over by where the smokestacks are.
Yeah. So do you know Nathan Hebekaiser?
No, I do not.
He's in our grad program. He's from
Okay.
St. John's,
Okay. Yep.
right? And he
So
works.
that's straight east of where I grew up.
Yeah. So he works for. He did work with. Oh gosh, it's late. I'm having a brain fart. It's a firm from the guys from Lawrence Tech, and one of my other students, David Lenz, works there.
It firm in Lansing.
Studio Intrigue.
Oh, yep. I've heard
Yeah,
of it.
that's where it is. Yeah, he
Yeah,
works
they're-
there. Nathan,
They're
but
doing a lot
Nathan
of
used to work.
housing.
Yeah, and like banks and things like that.
Mhm.
Yeah, so Nathan worked there, and he works for a different firm now.
Okay.
Very cool. So let's keep looking at your presentation if you have more stuff.
Yeah. So I was thinking, I guess back to what I was thinking with millennials is that millennials are so in tune with technology and innovation, probably more than other generations have been. So while this idea of
Oh, did you just freeze up? Can you still hear me?
received,
Yeah,
I think
there
it'd
you
be a
go.
little better received now.
Yeah, now I can.
What?
I just lost you for a minute. You froze for
Oh,
a
okay.
minute, for about
Oh.
20 seconds.
Okay.
You were talking about millennials being interested in technology, and then you froze.
Okay, yeah. So I was thinking that these the Buckminster Fuller's Demaxian House seemed really out of place during the time period.
Yeah.
I think it could be better received by new generations that's used to constantly being hooked up to technology throughout their day. And then there's also his ideas about he didn't necessarily call it sustainability within his design necessarily at the time, but that's a lot more popular, and I think the new generation is more educated on this sort of thing and more interested in trying to find a way to make that possible. So that's kind of why I think that that has potential.
I agree. Is there an aspect in Demaxian to create a neighborhood of them, or are you thinking and how many sips of the glass of wine called Demaxian, vintage Demaxian, are you gonna take? Like how influenced by that are you going to be? Are these going to be made new by you, Adam, because they're going to be maybe on wheels now, or portable, or are they going to be larger or smaller, or what are you going? How are you going to react to the Demaxian precedent?
I guess as far as maintaining some of the same ambitions and goals, but I'd like to see it become a lot more creative and customizable.
Yeah.
So looking at mass production back in that time, you have the Andy Warhol painting where a Coke is a Coke.
Yep.
And the Henry Ford quote that you can get whatever Model T you want, it's just got to be black. And now in our modern era, we have industry, and you have these new touchscreen Coca-Cola fountains. You can get 125 different flavors out of them, but starting with just a few basic things. And then with the Henry Ford, you can people for quite some time now, you can do build my Ford, or build my GM, or build whatever. You can get them in however many different colors you want, but they're still mass produced, so they still have some fairly affordable options out there.
And things that make them unique and yours.
Yeah. Yep.
Are there other things beside cars that we could maybe reference? I mean, Pulte, right? Did that, didn't he?
Who are you talking about?
Pulte Homes, Pulte, Levittown, in New Jersey, right, or Pennsylvania rather. Learning from Levittown.
Okay.
These were so Pulte is a local developer. Bill Pulte is a local developer who built Pulte Homes. And he was clearly inspired by Levittown, Levittown in Pennsylvania, which created a new landscape of the tapeworm subdivisions, as I call them, right? Not gridded streets, but tapeworm streets. That basically they all look alike, and they just went on for acres and acres and acres and acres. So if you look at an aerial picture of Levittown from when it was built, it's kind of like dizzying, right? And we still do that. We still build that way today. So there's lessons there. And Levittown was done to, no surprise, deal with an emerging, growing, burgeoning population, which was returning World War II veterans and their families. There you go.
Yep.
See the tapeworms?
Yeah, yep. Yeah, this is good, because when I was looking up like Dymaxion housing, I didn't know necessarily what other references I could start to draw from.
Right.
Yeah,
really, the whole of post-World War II housing starts here in Levittown. So this is kind of like the primary source for you, and the Dymaxion house comes, from this culture. Maybe out of frustration with Levittown, Fuller innovates this, new, unique thing, and he was truly cosmic in a way. He thought about sustainability. He thought about our natural resources. He thought about the future the way no other architect did. Actually, just as an aside, I heard him lecture at Oakland University. He was about 90 years old at the time, thick, small guy like me, white hair, thinning, big Coke bottle glasses like Corbu, the round ones.
Yep.
And he had no notes, right? He had some slides, and he spoke for 3 hours and 20 minutes. Wow. And I was exhausted. I was literally exhausted after that. And he could have gone on for another 3 hours. But I think they had to use the auditorium for something else, like graduation. I mean, I have never experienced anything like that. And in a way, it takes that kind of like energy, right? To like get an idea, a wonky idea like that out there. So I think you have some things to look at. Factory towns like Pullman, factory towns like Inkster, and maybe even factory towns in Lansing exist, and maybe begin to create a taxonomy of them, a listing of them, and start to learn more about them and why they happen, when they happen, and what was built for the housing community, for the residential community, might be in order. Let's see what else. Levittown is special. I think if you look back at the original like Ebenezer Howard and the Garden Cities that you probably talked about in contemporary issues, or in like architectural theory or in urban theory classes at school, you could look at those. Those were like the end of the 19th century. Those were housing and city plans. I think even Ledoux planned, in the 1600s, he planned cities as well. So there's a huge arc that of people that contemplated the relationship between housing and community, and it might be interesting to look at that. But maybe no one person better describes this question, Adam, than Leon Creer in a book called Architecture and Community, which if you afford it, it'll be worth it. You'll be able to use it for many years. It's about $35. Architecture and Community. It's Leon Creer, Krier. Did you find it? Oh, you just froze again. You still there? Can you hear me? There you go.
Yep.
You froze again.
Yeah, we don't normally have many problems with our internet here, but for some reason tonight it's acting up.
That's all right. Were you all done, Adam, with the material you wanted to show?
I think we've caught didn't necessarily go through all the slides, but as far as all the topics, I think we've.
Okay. Do you want to just want to scroll through them just briefly?
Yeah. So I don't know if I had this shared at the time, but this was what I was talking about, this idea with the Andy Warhol painting and everything's homogeneous. But it's achieving the end result.
Yeah.
But I think in today's technology, we can still achieve that same result, but still have it more customizable and more enjoyable for the user. I think that goes like the same as we were talking before with cars today and the other types of housing we were talking about before. I started to look into the Demaxian house itself, starting to looking through how he laid this out to be used. Covers all the basic uses, but it has things like a lot of sustainable ideas I think are really interesting and I think really applicable to some of the architecture issues we're facing today. He's using trying to trap methane gas from waste used on site and to use that to generate heat and energy. And then also has different passive systems built into it that circulate air, keep the air fresh. And then it's all structurally, it's really efficient, which helps to save the cost. It's that basic yurt design that goes back to the nomadics.
Yeah, you got
the nomads. So it's the shape gives it its strength as tension cable around the perimeter that helps to hold it in place. And its shape makes it aerodynamic. One thing I was reading about this, I think it was the Wichita House, which was some contractor Buckminster Fuller was working with, took some of his ideas and built his version of a Demaxian house, but it's on like setting on a flat foundation, normal foundation. But I think there was a tornado that house was able to survive.
Wow.
In part because of the round shape, able to divert the elements.
Yeah, the wind resistivity and
yeah. So I think that offers a lot of promise. And I was when thinking about this idea of customizability, I was thinking of the different Impressionists, Monet paintings you were talking about earlier.
Yeah, aren't they great?
Yeah, so I was thinking maybe I could have like a spread that has like this house, but then in all these different colors and variations on it. And some
this is a great plate.
Spin off that.
This is a terrific plate. Have you seen the movie? Are you a movie person?
Not so much.
So maybe you can read about it on like IMDb or Wikipedia. But do you know Harvey Keitel? He's like a tough guy actor, plays tough guys. He made a movie called Smoke. It's a good movie, but in the movie, so Smoke is about a smoke shop, and like think of like a bar and a bartender. Like think about how like a smoke shop is kind of a neighborhood community center in many ways, where customers come and smoke and share and reveal and disclose and celebrate life or complain about life on a daily basis, right? So that's kind of that's the story. But the thing that's interesting in the movie, right, is that Keitel plays a photographer who, like Manet at the Rouen Cathedral, sets up his tripod across the street from the smoke shop, and every day takes a picture, right, of the smoke shop. It's the same place on the corner. It's the same camera. It's the same film. It's the same subject. But he does this every day. But the variables are the weather, the daylight, right? The people, the cars, right? All of the seasons, right? So all of those things that happen that are variables provide the richness of that individual sort of picture. But again, the subject is relentlessly consistent. So I just love little like hooks like that, little stories like this. This is a very interesting sort of drawing. And I think, you know, you could also do the Levittown thing, like Levittown today versus Levittown then. You could have this sort of, or like I think we were talking a little bit earlier about a firm out of Chile called Elemental. It looks like elemental. I'll type it in the chat thing so you can see it. So the guy's name is Alejandro Arena, but the firm's name is Elemental. And Elemental does these neighborhoods. Actually, if you could pull up your browser, you can look at it with me. Close this out real quick. Are you familiar? He won the Pritzker Prize. He's the current Pritzker Prize holder in architecture, our profession's highest prize. Are you aware of him?
No, I haven't heard that much about him.
Okay, that's all right. You're going to learn tonight.
I'm trying to find.
So he does housing. He would be. He's another case study you need to add, Adam.
Okay.
So if you can screen share your search, I'll guide you to what I want you to look at and what we'll talk about for just a second, and then I'll let you go.
I think this might be it.
But I'd actually like you to go to his, so type the firm in and go to images, please. Because you're going to see a before and an after. And it's going to be like, keep going down. Keep going down. Okay. Okay. See him in the one black and white picture there? Go to the one down and over one. Down and over one. Where the yellow? Yeah. Yeah. So that's what they look like today.
Okay.
Right? But they were half houses when they were built. Does that make sense? So maybe click on a couple of those there. See how they're getting modified? Okay, and that's the one I want you to see. That image shows what they look like on the left as they were built, as they were designed by Arena. But then they get co-opted, they get developed and enhanced and made specific, right, by the family that owns them. They build out and they create windows and walls and rooms and floors. So he gives them kind of the basic armature, right, for a family to move into with limited means, and then they kind of pimp their ride, right? They soup up the house to become, in a way, their own. I like what you're talking about. So yeah, you need to look at him a little bit more carefully. This is a very interesting project.
Mm-hmm. Where's this at?
So these are all in Chile.
Okay.
And you know, honestly, right? Oh yeah, these are great. Wow. And then you know, then there's the Make It Right houses in New Orleans. You can maybe look at some of those and see if there was some sort of effort to mass produce those. That might be interesting to look at. These were post-Katrina homes of limited size, limited cost. Not a resounding success story, but admirable that architects and celebrities got together to do this. But I think Arena and Elemental are really like a touchstone for you. And then there's this guy, Shigeru Ban, Shigeru Ban, Ban, who has been interested in things like catastrophe architecture and emergency architecture, right? So like Shigeru, Ban. Yep, Geru. Ban. There he is. Oh, there's an H in there. You got it. So he won the Pritzker Prize about 3 years ago, and in these images, so he did like a cathedral there, the A-frame thing that's between his two portraits in that one row. That's a cathedral in Christchurch, New Zealand, after the big Christchurch earthquake. He did like refugee and migrant housing, he does these things out of things like bamboo, right, and cardboard tubing, so he's kind of like in your Buckminster Fuller wheelhouse. Okay. So I'd kind of like coax you to learn more about Arena and Ban, both Pritzker Prize winners. So these guys are at the top of our heap, right? And they're doing some really, really important work. And they're both doing work kind of in an idiom that you can extrapolate from. So over the weekend, I'd like you to look at them.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Glad you made it back.
Yeah. Yep.
Cool. Anything else? You want me to look at the last plate, or are we all set?
Yeah, I think that was it. Yep.
Okay. I'll let you go.
Okay.
Have a good weekend.
Yeah, you too. Thank you.
Uh-huh.